Well, that sucked, huh? The Giants, for the first time in the 143 plus year history of their franchise, have been shut out in both of their first two games of the season. And they have become the first team in baseball history to not score a single run and have five or fewer hits through their first two games of the season. The Yankees shut out the Giants on Wednesday 7-0. They got to Logan Webb with a big fat 5 spot in the top of the second inning of that game. And on top of that, the Giants only had 3 hits in that game. Today, the Yankees shut out the Giants 3-0, and the Giants had just 1 hit. It was an absolutely brutal performance by pretty much everyone involved, and that does include new manager Tony Vitello, unfortunately. We'll get to Tony in a bit. So the Giants had their official home opener today, and at first I was thinking, okay, this is such a Giants Larry Bear thing. Oh, they got to do it their way. But after the way Netflix did it on Wednesday, I can't say I blame them. And to be honest, today's ceremonies were much better. No, Wednesday was still cool. They had the taxi cab next to the Yankees dugout and the cable car next to the Giants dugout, and they did just the lineups and the national anthem and a flyover and kind of a cool smoky American flag spectacle over the 24-foot high Willie Mays wall in right field. But today they had John Miller MC it and announce the Giants lineup, just as he has done every year. They did a moment of silence for those who have died over the last year, those within the Giants family, the Bay Area sports media family, and the baseball family. And that included the woman who worked for the Giants, who orchestrated the orange flowers every year. I forgot her name, and I sincerely apologize for that. But she died earlier this year after a long battle with cancer. So we'd had another flyover. We had Lift Every Voice, a very beautiful song. The Giants have been doing that since 2020. And then they had Jeff Kent, who will be going into the Hall of Fame in July to throw out the ceremonial first pitch to his old manager, Dusty Baker, who I got to talk to a little bit before the game. I told him I'll be umpiring a triple header on Tuesday at his old high school, Del Campo. And, it was another beautiful day, some high clouds, temperatures in the low 70s, just a perfect day for baseball. It was another great pitching matchup, and Robbie Ray for the Giants and Cam Schlittler. He made the start in game 1 of the wild card series for the Yankees last year against the Red Sox. And like Logan Webb on Wednesday night, Robbie Ray pitched a 1-2-3 inning for the Giants in the first inning today. Now, unlike Wednesday, the Giants were unable to waste an opportunity against Schlittler in the bottom of the first inning because, well, Schlittler set down the Giants 1-2-3. Ray survived a jam in the second inning. Willie Adames led off the bottom of the second inning, and like the first inning on Wednesday, he was unable to make a 2-strike adjustment and struck out all over himself. With 2 outs, Elliot Ramos lined one off the end of his bat down the right field line for a 2-out double. It would be the first hit of the game for the Giants, but unfortunately Casey Schmidt, who was up next, was jammed and hit a bit of a fist job pop out to Jazz Chisholm at second base, and the Giants were unable to come through. And that would not only turn out to be the lone hit that the Giants would get against Schlittler today, it would be the lone hit that they would get, well, period, today. Robbie Ray gave up 3 hits through 5 innings. Neither guy walked a batter. But top of the sixth, old Giants killer Paul Goldschmidt. He leads off the top of the sixth with pretty much the same kind of double Ramos hit. Liner off the end of the bat down the right field line. It hit off that sidewall, and Elliot Ramos totally misplayed the carom. If he would have expected that carom, good chance that would have been a single. But that was a moot point because Aaron Judge came up, and I think Judge had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Of course, Judge went 0 for 5 with the golden sombrero on Wednesday. He came into this at bat in the top of the sixth inning today, 0 for 2 with a strikeout. So 0 for 7 with 5 strikeouts overall so far in the very young season. Well, Judge hit a towering blast just fair down the left field line. It hooked around the foul pole, and it hit that kind of stairway in the bottom of the in the promenade level in foul territory. Hooked around the foul pole, and then hit that stairwell, of seats. That final stairwell where the seating bowl ends on the promenade level. And I mean, when guys are hitting them out there, it's because they absolutely crushed it. So the Yankees were on the board first, and it was 2-0. And with the way the Giants offense had been going in the first game and a half of the season, you just kind of knew that, well, it was over. So Ray gets Bellinger third, and look, it was a very valiant effort by Ray. He did everything he could. He just couldn't get any offensive support. Overall today, Ray, 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, didn't walk anyone, struck out 4. So Jose Butto, he comes in for his 2026 debut. Giancarlo Stanton comes up, and he hits a bomb. And I mean just a bomb halfway up into the bleachers in left field. That makes it 3-0. Yankees had to rub it in our faces just a little bit. The Giants came close to being shut out in each of their first 2 games of the season in 2008 and 2019. In fact, in 2019, March 29th, 2019 to be exact, in San Diego, the Giants were trailing 4-0 going into the top of the 9th inning. They were 3 outs away from being shut out in each of their first 2 games for the first time in franchise history. But Evan Longoria led off the top of the 9th against Phil Maton with a home run. So it didn't happen, but 7 years later here in 2026, it does happen. Giants fans, after the second out of the bottom of the 9th, Harrison Bader made an out, then Luis Arias made an out. And after Arias is out, Giants fans just got up and headed towards the exits. Those ungrateful fans didn't want to witness Giants history. But you got to give credit to Matt Chapman. He battled, fought off a couple of 2-strike pitches. He didn't want to make that Giants history. He drew a walk, took second and third on defensive indifference. But Rafael Devers grounded out to second, and here you have it. For the first time in franchise history, the Giants have been shut out in each of their first 2 games of the season. As I said, they become the first team in baseball history to not score a single run through their first 2 games and to have 5 or fewer hits through their first 2 games. They had 3 hits Wednesday, 1 hit today, 4 hits through their first 2 games, and they are just completely flat. It was just completely embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. For them to start off the season like this is brutal. This is embarrassing. All right? This is just flat out embarrassing. And to quote one of my best friends in the whole wide world and my occasional producer on the Insomniac Lunatic Fringe, unacceptable. That just cannot happen. No 2-strike adjustments. Just bad hitting. That can't happen. And as I said last night, with how weak the Giants pitching is, this offense cannot afford too many slumps. Now, I will say this, the bullpen has actually been solid in the first 2 games. And Vitello was given all 8 of the relievers on the open 8A roster their 2026 debuts. On Wednesday, after Webb was pulled, we saw Keaton Wynn, JT Brubaker, and Caleb Killen. Today we saw Jose Budo, Eric Miller, Ryan Walker, Ryan Baruki, the guy the Giants just signed like a week or so ago, and Matt Gage. So all 8 relievers on the opening day roster have appeared. And in the 7 2/3 innings that the Giants bullpen has pitched, they have given up just 1 run and 4 hits. They've walked 5 and have struck out 9. Now that's a positive. Now the bullpen, which is a weakness, the Giants have not just one of the worst bullpens in all baseball, but one of the worst overall pitching staffs, starting rotation, and bullpen in all of baseball. So with that being the case, it was nice to see the bullpen get off to a solid start over these first 2 games. See, there's a positive. So yes, it was embarrassing. It was brutal. It was unacceptable. But at the end of the day, it was just 2 games. And we still have 160 of these babies left. But try telling that to Tony Vitello. So Tony had a pretty intense press conference after the game. I was not there, but Sam Lubman, the producer of the Morning Roast, 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday on 95.7 The Game, and Steven Risotto, host of the Rizzo Cast and also a producer at 95.7 The Game. They were both there. And Vitello had some interesting quotes. And look, Vitello's got a personality, and the guy is a quote machine. You don't have many guys like that in today's game, and it's why I'm really excited that the Giants brought him in. But Tony showed in his press conference today that, well, he still has much to learn. Here's a clip from the press conference. You guys can take a look. And for those of you just listening on audio, listen. And here's what Tony had to say after today's frustrating, brutal, and embarrassing loss.
Enough to have major concerns about, or is it too small a sample? It's not even really a sample size.
No, I mean, I don't know if it applies to this specific situation, but I would always revert back to the Pedroia interview. Anytime that was a question in any clubhouse I've been in, Ortiz was the guy being questioned at the time. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to question him to begin with, but again, it's kind of all about sample size. And over and over, we've talked about being in this for the long haul. So I think that's where our guys' mindset is, but there's also a pressing need in there for some feel good and also to want to perform for the fans. And I've been in a situation where we went from no crowds to big crowds, and I saw it on our guys' faces and also in their hands when they're squeezing the bat. So again, if I had to guess, to be honest with you, I'd blame myself. So maybe it's time to maybe do what I can to ease any tension in there so guys can be free and go out there and play. Because as I said, I think everybody that was on the field or in the stands know those guys can play that were in that lineup.
And what are you seeing from enough?
Blame yourself? Ease the tension? Dude, it's the 2nd game of the season. Okay, Tony, this isn't college anymore. And despite the fact that Tony had a really good spring training, you could tell he was having a hard time adjusting to the big leagues from college. I mean, he was bringing up college a lot, and I'm sure it was difficult for him not to be involved in the college season. He had been involved in college baseball in some way, shape, or form since 2000 every year, whether it be a player, assistant coach, or a head coach. I don't know why they don't call them managers in high school and college. They have to call them the head coach. My friend Matt Beaver does a funny thing with that, and I can't quite imitate that. The head coach. There it is. But it's like, Tony, this isn't the 40, 50, 60 game sprint of the college season. This is the 162 game grind and marathon of the Major League Baseball season. We're 2 games in. We still have 160 of them left. Relax. Okay? There's no need to be like, well, I blame myself. There's no need to be, oh, sure, maybe I need to ease the tension. There's no need for that. Relax. And look, I get it. A lot of people are blasting this move. Well, there are a lot of managers in the minor leagues who were deserving that was passed over. Yeah, this is the first guy that's ever gone straight from a college head coaching job to a big league managerial job. I get that. And as I've said a decade ago, I would have vehemently opposed this. But because of, in 2013, the game on the field was fine just the way it was. And you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, they tried to fix it. And now, 12 years later, the game does need change. And with all the corporate managers in the minor leagues who are just going to take orders from the nerds upstairs once they get to the big leagues, I have no problem with Tony Vitello, who's actually been managing his games, jumping over them to get a big league managerial position. But just as I knew there would be, there are going to be some serious growing pains. He did mostly well for spring training. The Giants went 19-9-1 in spring training, I think. Or 18-8-1. (19-9-1). I was right the first time. But now we're playing games that count. As I said, there are going to be some growing pains. He's going to have to get accustomed to life, not just as a big league manager, but in the big leagues, dealing with the 162-game marathon of what is a Major League Baseball season. Other than 1981 and 2020, the Major League Baseball season is a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm sure we'll have more moments like we had in today's post-game press conference. And I'm sure the Giants will have plenty of early season struggles. But as I've mentioned, the old saying, it's a long season. Despite how bad I anticipate this team's going to start, I think they will get their shit together at some point. These first 2 games have done absolutely nothing to change my overall outlook of the season. 77 wins at the very least, 84 wins at the very most. In fact, even going in to this series, I was dreading the schedule that the Giants had right off the bat. Sam and I talked about it in our preview prediction special on Tuesday night. You just had a feeling that with the teams the Giants were playing, that they were not going to get off to the best start. It happens. We've seen plenty of teams get off to miserable starts and go on to have great seasons. So I'm not concerned, but Tony has got to realize we don't have to be, as he mentioned, he said he gave a fire and brimstone speech. We don't need to be doing that here at the end of March, okay? We don't need to be doing that. Now, come July, August, and September, yeah. But 2 games into a 162-game marathon, there's absolutely no need for this. And there's absolutely no need to, well, I take responsibility for this. Dude, we're 2 games in. We have 160 games left. Calm the fuck down. And the good news, the players get it, including Robbie Ray, who he's been around. Here's what Robbie Ray had to say after the game.
I don't think so. I think we're all, major league players. I think that we can handle it. We can handle the ups and downs. It's just, one of those things that has happened the first 2 games. It's not ideal, but like I said, you got 160 games left. So what are you going to do with it?
There you go, Tony. And look, it's not fun for these guys either. Robbie Ray is obviously very frustrated. He pitched his ass off, got no offensive support, and ended up with a really hard, tough luck loss. That's not how he wanted to start his season. But these guys know that, yeah, it's 2 games. And I think it's 2 things. Tony needs to realize that you don't need to be this gung-ho throughout the entirety of the Major League Baseball season. And 2, I think he still has some nerves. I think he's nervous. I mean, this is a huge jump for a guy like Tony Vitello. I don't think Tony in his wildest dreams, even 6 months ago at the end of September, thought that he'd be a big league manager. I mean, that's a lot to jump into for a guy. But the good news is you go out and you get him tomorrow. So we will see Tyler Mahle, who is coming off a really great spring. 4 games, 10 innings, not a single earned run in the, not just the dry desert air, but the hot dry desert air where the ball flies. He will be making his official Giants debut tomorrow. Will Warren, he will go for the Yankees. And Vitello did say after the game that the lineup, in which was the exact same in these first 2 games, will probably be different tomorrow. I think a change there would be a good idea. It is also a Fox game. It's a 4:15 start, which means, well, shitty hitting conditions. And it's also going to be the first Fiesta Gigantes of the regular season. Now, the Giants wore the really cool Fiesta Gigantes jerseys in their 2 exhibition games against the Sultanes de Monterrey Monday and Tuesday, which was really cool that the Giants did that. Used to be that the Giants would wear the Gigantes jerseys with the normal team lettering. It started with the home creams and then with the orange lettering on black. But of course, the Giants have released this jersey, and I will show it to you on my screen here. It's a cool jersey. Me personally, I would replace the gray on the woodmark there surrounding the Gigantes and on the cap with kind of sandish, tannish. That would make it perfect, but still a cool jersey nevertheless. We'll get to see that in the regular season for the first time and on Fox in front of the entire country and the entire baseball world. That's going to be really cool. And we're going to get to see the new Giants mariachi band. I actually suggested to Larry Bear at the Tony Vitello presser in October that he bring some sort of band. So I think I'll take some credit for this one. And I love this. I've talked about the lack of personalities in the game. Teams should do that. Teams should have bands at the game and not just in half innings. Play in the stands during the inning. Now, I get it. In a sellout crowd, that's going to be hard for the mariachi band to do, but I'm sure you can find a place somewhere to put them and they could be playing in between pitches. I mean, bands playing music in between pitches is extremely common down in Latin America and extremely common in East Asia and Japan. We need that here in the States, here in Canada, and in Major League Baseball. That would be so cool. Kind of similar to a marching band at a college. And I probably wouldn't do a marching band, but just a band that with horns, some percussions, you name it. And this mariachi band, I think they've got some wind instruments, some horns. I know they've got the classical guitars. I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys in action tomorrow. And I'm going to try and interview these guys at some point during the season. I'm really excited about this. And stuff like this will help bring character and personality back into our great game. 2 things that are greatly and solely missing from our great game. But hey, go out and get them tomorrow. I am anticipating another Giants loss and an opening sweep. Last time the Giants were swept to open the season was, I think, 2012 of all years, when they lost their first 3 games in Arizona. Yes, it was. I don't know when the last time the Giants were swept at home to open the season. And I'm not going to bother digging that out right now. I can do that at some point in the next 24 hours. But expect a loss tomorrow. But if they do get a win, I'll be pretty damn happy. And as I said, don't be surprised if after the getaway game against the Phillies on April 8th, if they're 3-10. Don't be surprised. All right. This has been the Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show. As I forgot to mention on my first few shows of the year, production of sports radio service. So for my boss, Lee Leonard, I'm Stephen Rubin. Hope you enjoyed my musings tonight. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, and I will see you at the bowl.